Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined by Charlie once more as we take on another London Film Festival review. This is the latest Wes Anderson film, The French Dispatch, that's going to be released next week in UK cinemas. And I needed to enlist the help of a Wes Anderson fan on the channel because it would be very unfair if I did this myself. So, firstly, Charlie, how are we today, and how's the festival been for you?
Yeah, good. It's been full on. First year back having it in person, so it's been quite intense. But no, it's been great fun. It's been great to see people from different sites and catch up with people after all this time. So yeah, and there's been some great films as well.
Definitely. And for everybody at home, this coverage is obviously carrying on. The festival runs until this Sunday, the 17th. We've still got a couple more reviews to come out. The Power of the Dog comes to mind, Tragedy in Macbeth, and a couple of red carpet interviews as well. So do stick around on the channel. We've got a lot more festival coverage coming on the way. It's been a very intense. I mean, you've done it a lot more than I have this year, but it's been a very intense 10 days so far. But we also want to hear from you guys in the comments below. Comment below your thoughts, not just on the festival, if you've seen much from it, but also if you have seen The French Dispatch. We know that there is a very big group of Wes Anderson fans. It was one of the most hyped films of the festival itself. So I'm curious to hear people's thoughts on this because I think this has been divisive more than I thought it would be. But we'll get into that shortly. And if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you want to know what videos do come next, the best thing to do is to get us up on social media, which is Twitter at cinema_savvy, facebook.com/cinemasavvy, and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. So we announce what videos we're doing when they're going up, always on social media. So that's the best place to follow us. And we're way more active on Twitter than the others, which is worth adding. But that being said, I think this may be the first ever Wes Anderson film reviewed on the channel. I don't think Isle of Dogs was reviewed. If it was, I wasn't on it. Maybe Tayte did. I don't actually know.
Yeah.
But as a bit of background, obviously I've said and joked to people that I'm not a big Wes Anderson fan. Obviously I've definitely saw the Grand Budapest Hotel, and I struggled to attempt some of the others. And when they announced it for the festival, I was kind of sort of jokingly there, like, I'm getting up at 5 a.m. on a Sunday to watch a Wes Anderson film. That was not on my bucket list. And had we got the red carpet, I'd have been like, I'm at a Wes Anderson red carpet over an F1 race, which I also couldn't have imagined happening. But I'm going to hand over to you, who has far more delightful things to say about this director, I guess.
I mean, when they announced the schedule for the films that were going to be at the festival, when French Dispatch came up, I was like, okay, I'm in, like, sold straight away. It was easily like my most hyped film of the festival. I've been excited about this for so long. Yeah, I'm a huge Wes Anderson fan, so to see his films coming back to the big screen was really exciting for me. And also his first live action in ages, because Isle of Dogs was his last film and that was an animated film. So yeah, really exciting to see like all those big names and in the style of just what you expect from an Anderson film. And yeah, I was buzzing for it. I was really excited.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. Like, we know he has obviously Ensembles. It's a very Wes Anderson thing. Some of his favorites return, and again, I've not seen all of them, but you know, when you think some people pop up in the Grand Budapest Hotel, like in this one, like if there's a 5-second slot to fill, he still brings in someone like he's worked with before. And that poster where it just has like 50 people, you can just keep scanning it, and there's like Christoph Waltz hiding in the background, and there's all these people who, I think Ensemble was an understatement with a film like this, an absolute truth.
Yeah.
But it is worth mentioning this film itself, it's an anthology film. There are 3 centric stories in the middle of it. This is about a fictional magazine, The French Dispatch, which I think they actually published and gave out to people at the festival, which that was actually pretty cool to read about that. But I'm not going to go into the specific details of what the story sets up, because I'm not sure what it said in the trailer, but there is an overarching story past the 3 sort of smaller stories. But what we'll do, we'll speak about each one. So we've got the first one, which is a story about Benicio del Toro being a painter in prison, and how he becomes one of the most like famous artists of a generation. We've got a second story, which is Timothy Chalamet almost doing a French Revolution with a lot of other students. And then we've got a third one, which is Jeffrey Wright reciting a story of himself he's a food critic, but he ends up like being in a big police investigation thing. I think that's the politest I can say about each of the 3 is a summary, because I don't want to give away everything for each one, because what I might actually say is that as a heads up is that I enjoyed this film. And I've been quite open in telling that to people that, you know, 8 in the morning was early for a Wes Anderson film, especially when you're not a fan, to sit down in a screen to watch it. But I really enjoyed the first and third of the. I mean, there's a smaller Owen Wilson one. I don't really count that because that was just like, let's get Owen Wilson to be Owen Wilson for 5 minutes, which I really enjoyed. But yeah, I came out of this. I almost had second. I almost watched the Grand Budapest Hotel this week, but I didn't. I actually have it on Blu-ray behind me. People didn't believe me, but yeah, I opening remarks. I think this was actually one of the funner ones, and I'm curious to see what you think as a Wes Anderson fan as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's not at the top of my list of his films, but it's also not anywhere near the bottom. It probably floats around the middle somewhere. It's more. I don't know how it can possibly be, but it's more quirky than some of his other stuff. Like a lot of the time they follow just a straight narrative. Yes, there's like frills and stuff that come in from outside of the main story, but they do tend to just follow that like singular narrative. This is a lot more sort of like picky. There's more going on. You focus on specific characters for a short period of time and then you don't hear from them again. There's a couple that come back, but in the actual stories, they're just there for that period of time. So his style of writing it is very different to what we've seen up until now from him. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just fun. Like it's a really good fun film. There's nothing too deep. There's nothing too like dark in it. It's just kind of like a bit lighthearted and almost like someone said to him, if you could make a film now you're at a position where people know you know what to expect, what are you going to do? And he just went, actually, I've got this idea and I'm just going to do it and I'm going to see how it goes. It didn't feel pressured. It just kind of felt like a bit of a whim, bit of a passion project. He got new names in as well, which was really exciting. And like you say, a lot of the old favourites of his, obviously Owen Wilson, Bill Murray, Tilda Swinton, came back for it, which is really cool. But it was also nice that he brought in a couple of new faces. And shot some of it in black and white, which is really different. And I mean, I know a lot of filmmakers are trying to do that at the moment. And I've always said I only like films to be in black and white if it's warranted. You know, if it makes sense for it to be in black and white. If it's just done in black and white to be artistic, then I'm not that interested. But this, for me, I quite liked the fact that some of it was and some of it wasn't, and it kind of helped set the tone of that particular story, set the time scale, all that kind of thing. So yeah, I think he just had fun with it, and I think that that's okay. It's okay for him to do that, even if it's not his best work. It's still great. It's still very Wes, and people will know what to expect, and they will get that as well, which is always quite interesting to see.
Yeah, and I think as well with this one, you know, as I said, the black and white was interesting because I'm really glad you brought up. So many films are doing it as a trend now. I think I always pick on Mad Max, Logan, and Parasite, who had very successful launches, and all three directors said, "Well, we always wanted it deep down to be in black and white, so we'll get it released." And I'm just sat there like, "Did you though?" And I know that, like, because Logan had great photos in black and white, and you know, George Miller, Mad Max, one of the most beautiful films there, he wanted in black and white, and there is this trend happening now, and yeah, I'm not going to bait them. Maybe they did want it, but I think for this film, I think you used the word warranted, which is probably the best example of it. That, you know, this is a period piece. It's worth saying that it's obviously a fictional magazine in a fictional French town, and I want to say looks like the 60s, 70s timepiece. Maybe it's. I think when black and white's used like contextually in that way, it works because it puts sort of not context onto it, but you're not focusing on like background stuff. Like when you have a period piece that's in color, you can spot modern things in it. Whereas when it's in black and white, it almost looks sort of like it's in a time capsule and can work really well. And that's what I realized, that some of these did do that by choice.
And it's brave for him to do black and white because Wes Anderson films are so renowned for his color palette. He's all about the pastels and he's all about setting the scene based on the colors that he uses. So for him to then decide, actually, I'm going to have some parts of this in black and white, that's quite bold for him. And yeah, I mean, so many of the films at the film festival this year have been in black and white, and I've just been each time questioning whether or not it's needed. And like you said about Logan, Parasite, and Mad Max, that was just for me a gimmick, and they were just like, let's just re-release it, get a bit more money coming in from box office. It's easy to transition it to black and white, whereas for this, I think it was it was an aid for the storytelling, which I think is important.
Definitely, and let's go into each of the three stories. So, we won't do spoilers like what happened in, but we'll go over the gist of it. So, the Prism one we spoke about, we've got Benicio del Toro, who I don't know if he's ever been in a Wes Anderson film. That is a collaboration I'd never seen coming. Yeah, I think it works really well as a heads up, but he is playing almost like a boy genius who became a psycho murderer and is in like a penitentiary ward, and he creates art. He's serving like a 50-year sentence, and he goes on. He falls in love with the character. I think we can say it's Leia Seydoux. I don't think anyone minds.
Yeah.
The,
I
the
mean,
Bond
it's in the
fans can get
trailer.
excited. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of Bond alumni, by the way, people. I know the Bond fans have been watching this, but this one's got 5 Bond alumni, which is really cool. But yes, their storyline was great because it was just an idea I've never seen done before, and it as someone that's more of an outsider, it didn't feel like a Wes Anderson. I mean, it came across as a Wes Anderson story, but the actual concept was like I could imagine like a 2-hour drama about something like this, and this was done in like a really like stylistic way that it's almost a 20-minute short story. You get to bring in people like Adrian Brody as well, who I know is in a lot of his stuff, and I think it's a massively underrated actor that doesn't get enough work, which I find really odd still. And their story, I think, was, I mean, I've got 2 favorites, but this one was right up there in terms of idea. And it's almost that opening segment. I think it brought you into it straight away, but it's just how good Benicio del Toro is that there's always been something like any film you see him, and even if it's like Sicario, Bond, anything, he has this sort of enigmatic presence. And I think you get that a lot with his character.
Yeah, he's an incredibly skilled actor, and it is fun to see him do something a little bit. Although his character isn't a particularly light-hearted character, it's nice to see him in the setting of something that isn't like a high intensity action film, or where he's playing like a really dark, mysterious, like tortured character. He's just done wrong, and he's found something he enjoys to pass the time whilst he's like doing his sentence, and has a weird addiction to mouthwash, which never really got explained, but like it's okay. We'll take it. It's Wes Anderson. What do you expect? It's actually, out of the 3, my least favorite of the storylines, but I thought it was a good introduction. It was a good sort of taste of what was to come.
Definitely. And then the second one, I'm just going to call this one the French Revolution, even though it's not. But we have obviously Timothée Chalamet is also got Dune coming out the day this comes out in America, which is he'll be having a fun week. Yeah, he's at the Wonka photos, set photos as well, singing and everything. So Chalamet's on an absolute wave this week, and he's playing. This is the story I wasn't sort of too keen on, if I'm being honest, which is a shame because it's got Francis McDormand, and he's essentially a young revolutionary, and his goal is to do something with the student. I think it's about what's it called when you're sort of pulled into the army. It's very army sent. Yeah, it's like anti-enlistment, but then it also turns into like being like anti the university he's at as well. And it was a mini revolutionary tale. I think this was maybe the most Wes Anderson of the 3, I would say. And Chalamet was great, but I don't think we had enough of him or Francis McDormand. And I think both of them were underused, which is a massive shame considering how great they both are.
Yeah, Frances McDormand, definitely. She was wasted in this film. And she's also kind of like at the forefront of most of the marketing, her and Timothée Chalamet. So it was a shame that we didn't get to see a little bit more of her. But what I love, and I know I sing his praises all the time, but what I love is that the last review I was on was to talk about Dune and how incredible he was as an action star, sci-fi star, like super big blockbuster, crazy atmospheric film. And then for this, it was so stripped back, and he was so quirky, and he was so comical, and he was like a little bit insane, and it just shows his versatility as an actor. Like he actually can. And they wrote next week, we've got one on the Thursday and one on Friday being released, and you could literally go to see both of them and think you're watching a different actor. Like he's so good, and all this does is just help back that up. But yeah, it was my favorite storyline, probably biased because I just like watching him. But I also just like the sense of like revolution coming from young people. I think it's quite empowering. It's quite interesting to watch. The fact that we still can't really remember what it is that they were revolting against probably is more to do with how tired we were when we were watching it rather than the storytelling. But yeah, I liked this one the best, I think.
No, that's fair. And I think in this one, I wouldn't say it has as much of an ensemble as the others, but this is the one where it's definitely more centric with the leads from it,
Yeah.
um, which was an interesting thing to do. And then and this one was fully in black and white, we've got to add as well. And then the third one, which was my favorite, was, I'm just calling this the Jeffrey Wright one. Jeffrey Wright, I think, is one of the most underappreciated actors. He's been such a solid character actor for so long. He's now starting to, I don't want to say getting into the roles, but I think Westworld's been the one that sort of jumped it again, where he's now getting into big Hollywood films. And I think this is somebody that could be a leading man in the future, or someone's got to give him a chance, because to me, he stole this film. I mean, obviously, he's not just had Bond out recently, he's had What If as well, playing not the Ancient One. No, that's Tilda Swinton. Yeah, the Watcher. And I thought he was wonderful in this. His character essentially can recite any word he's ever written in an article. We've got live streamer randomly here, like almost, it looked like the Joker's at like a 70s chat show type thing.
Yeah.
And he's just asking him to recite a story that he wrote in the article. And we essentially have Jeffrey Wright narrating an entire story arc, which was amazing. And it was about him being a food critic, going to the famous prison chef. And he ends up going on a massive wild goose chase with the commissioner's son that gets kidnapped. And I thought this was incredible. I had so much fun with this. And we get like an animated segment, which felt very much like Monty Python, where you've had all this live action, and you've got a really bonkers animated bit for a minute or two. And there was so much fun here. But this is the one where I feel that most of the Wes Anderson usuals came in, that we got like Willem Dafoe for about 20 seconds. We got... oh God, what's his name? The old Hulk, Edward Norton, popped up for a couple of seconds as well. Tragically underused. We had Saoirse Ronan as well, which I think a lot of people spoke about.
Yeah.
And I think this story felt like so much fun. It couldn't have been longer. You know, we spoke about how, like, I think even that French Revolution one, that could be a 2-hour film if someone wanted to tell it, but this one was perfect. It was the lovely finale. It was about 20 minutes, I would say, but it felt like a final piece, and I just had so much fun with this one.
Yeah, and you're right about Jeffrey Wright. I would love to see him. I'd love to see more of him. I think he's incredibly watchable and so talented. In my house, he's always referred to as the guy from Hunger Games, because no one can ever remember his name. But yeah, I think he is going to become a much more recognized actor, and I think this is just going to give him another push towards whatever's coming next for him. And I have to agree. I'm so sad that Saoirse was so underused, but maybe she was busy but wanted to be involved. I don't know, but it was a shame. But good that she was in there anyway. But yeah, this was a great little section. Good story, like you say. It worked as a short, so it wasn't too much. It was just exactly the right, and it was also kind of the action in the film, because the other stories were kind of stripped back a little bit. So it just gave the film a little bit of a punch towards the end, which was quite fun. Yeah, but really liked it.
No, definitely. So that sort of rounds off the 3 stories. One thing we'll speak about, because we know that Alexandre Desplat is a big Wes Anderson contributor. The soundtrack felt very Wes Anderson-y. I don't know if that's an official term, but you know what you're going to get with the score. Like it's witty, it's charming, it's upbeat, I would say, and I thought, you know, it accommodated the film well. I don't know if we'll get nominated for an Oscar. If he normally does for Wes Anderson, I'm sure he will, but I don't really know how the Wes Anderson films play out in that respect. But I enjoyed the soundtrack. I think with a film like this, you need something upbeat that you can't. I couldn't imagine like a Hans Zimmer dour up drums banging Wes Anderson film, or like a brass one like a Giacchino. But I think Alexandre Desplat's music's so well suited towards him, and that just shows again in this.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be fun to swap the scores for this and Dune and see how they play with each other. It'd just be a fun experiment.
You get the space bagpipes on Jeffrey Wright, and that'd be incredible. But that kind of brings us to the final thoughts. As I said, we've kind of gone through each story. It's quite hard to do because we don't want to say a lot. But as I said, I'm not a Wes Anderson fan, so for me, I think afterwards you turned to me like, "Did you like it?" And I said, "I actually didn't mind it," and that's probably like how I feel. I mean, it's been 5 days now, so it's been a long week. A lot of other films have been watched, but it still lingered with me that this is the Wes Anderson film I enjoyed. And as I said, it almost made me go back and try and watch Grand Budapest again, because I have seen that film like 2 or 3 times trying to enjoy it, and it's not worked out yet. But As I said, overall, I think it's a solid film. I don't know if this will be up around Oscar season, just because it still feels like early days. And again, I'm gonna just mention this now. It's really dumb to release this so close to June, and I know it's a very busy end of the year, but we kind of spoke from in the next week. We've got Venom and Last Jordan Halloween today. We've got Dune next week. We've got Last Night So the week after, and French Dispatch, and that's going to get murdered at the box office because we've still got Bond getting showed so many times a day. So I think October is a very strange release for this. I thought maybe they could have done mid to late November and it might have played its hand better. But I don't know if this is a film a lot of people will see. I'm sure his fans will be there. But as I said, I enjoyed this one. And I'd be actually quite curious to go back and see it again, but probably not at the cinema.
Yeah, I think it's just a case of so many films got delayed and they just needed to push them out as soon as they can, but nobody wanted to try and release up against Bond. So they were like, well, it'll just have to be end of the month. No, I don't think it's going to absolutely wipe the box office. I think there's too much competition. And also, I don't think Wes Anderson is as mainstream as a lot of those other films. So I think a lot of people will skip it. And generally from the Wes Anderson sort of fan base, it's not being rated as one of his best. So I'd be surprised if it gets much at the Oscars. Maybe things like production design, he usually gets that. Or maybe music, I'm not sure, but I don't think it matters. I don't think every one of his films has to sweep the nominations at the Oscars. You know, he makes the films he wants to make, and I think that on its own is admirable. So yeah, but I loved it, and I absolutely cannot wait to see it again when I've had more than 5 hours sleep.
Definitely. So we want to hear from you guys below. Comment your thoughts on the French Dispatch. If you've seen it, let us know. If you haven't seen it, you're curious, we'll reply to those. So do comment along, like the video, comment, share it. Some of these festival videos have been incredible. Everyone's loving Spencer. I know you're not a fan, and I wasn't massively keen on it, but people have all flown in for it. And do hit that subscribe button. We've got a lot more festival stuff coming on the way. As we said, Power of the Dog, Tragedy Macbeth, a couple of interviews. We don't know when they're going to go up, definitely in the next week, but there's a lot of things to do because meanwhile, we're obviously prepping for the big James Bond top 10 ranking video. That's going to get released this Tuesday, the 19th of October. For people that follow that, the rankings are in, Photoshops are done, the videos are done. It's a gargantuan task, and that will be up this Tuesday, the 19th. So that's a lovely way to cap off with almost everyone that was on our videos across the last 6 months. And if you want to find out where you can find us, obviously do follow Charlie on Twitter. That's @FunnyOldWorldX. Lots of good tweets there, festival coverage, other reviews as well. So do follow her. And we are around as well, cinema_savvy, facebook.com/cinemasavvy, and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. So once more, Charlie, I want to thank you for taking time out to come on stay. I know we needed you for the Wes Anderson film, so I'm glad we could get you on with that. And another Timothée Chalamet film, I guess we can add as well.
I'm collecting them.
Definitely. So everybody at home, thank you once more for watching, and we'll be sure to see you on the next.